Our world has always been complex. It appears to increase in complexity because our understanding of it is improving. The way that we exploit various energy sources, not only fire, which is what started our civilization, but also water and wind, carbon and oil, nuclear energy and solar photovoltaics, all of this requires an increasing knowledge about the world. These ever more varied energy sources, with their power and intensity, enable us in turn to discover and transform and collect and exploit the various elements that can be found in our natural environment. Even some elements that cannot be found naturally. The complexity and interconnectedness is apparent in the way that we grow our food, what we understand about our health, and how we can intervene when we become ill to restore our health. The way that we transfer over the course of many generations all the knowledge that has been discovered, systematized, recorded. The transfer of knowledge becoming products and services, processes that allow delivering them where and when they are needed. This is what our economy is made of, and the way that we represent, store, and account for value with that economy is itself becoming more and more sophisticated. Our concepts of wealth and money. So, what is needed in order to be active in this world where complexity is necessary and necessarily part of everybody's life? We need to rely on vast amounts of data that are naturally not only about our local environment, but from everywhere on the planet. We are influenced by what is happening everywhere in the world, and the data that needs to be made actionable by our knowledge of how to transform it, how to interpret it, how to make sense of it, regardless of its volume. Our theories of the world need to create a coherent picture, and we must be able to confirm their reliability. We must be able to compare the consequences of our decisions with the expected outcomes, and change not only our decisions and actions, but potentially our theories of the world as well, if the outcome that we generate is not what we want. This kind of behavior emerges spontaneously through biological evolution, but we cannot allow the rules of natural selection alone to act. We must go beyond them, not only because of the millions of years needed, but also because of the immense suffering that a completely unaware nature imposes on individuals, killing billions of them and extinguishing millions of species, patiently waiting until a fit solution can be found to the challenges that individuals and species are at any point facing. We have to apply these evolutionary approaches more rapidly and more humanely. We have to make sure that as many people as possible participate in them in a conscious and self-aware manner, because they will benefit from it individually, as well as their entire group will benefit from the fruitful decisions that they make. This ideal situation of sufficient data being analyzed through the lens of fruitful theories, informing actionable decisions, generating desired outcomes, this ideal situation doesn't exist in the real world. We have a foggy understanding of our own desires and goals. We have imperfect theories about the consequences of our actions, and we have insufficient data to feed our theories, and we of course realize the situation being imperfect. Most of the time we accept that this imperfection is the natural way of things, and we are not excessively worried about it because we can course correct rather than expecting to be on a trajectory that has been set at the beginning and just observing it. We know that we have to influence our path with progressive interventions if we want to keep it following towards the desired direction. However, if the discrepancy between the world around us and our understanding of it and our ability to interpreting it and acting diverges excessively, then we become more insecure. We become more anguished. We become more vulnerable. And exactly because of this state of anguish and vulnerability comes from insufficient data and from our inability to interpret the world and act on the world, we may not even be able to pinpoint its exact source. We may not even be able and aware of the reasons why we are anguished and vulnerable. Humans are social animals. We have formed groups and supported each other since we emerged through biological evolution. We are characterized by our complementing each other's strengths and achieving more because we organize societies. As a consequence, it is natural to have conversations about the state of the world, about effectiveness of our decisions, to agree where we should be going, whether foraging together or designing the next moon mission. The state of anguish and vulnerability that I described before makes our ability to participate in these conversations and decisions much less effective. Our vulnerability is not only on the level of the decisions that we make about our own individual lives. Our vulnerability is about how we make decisions in a social sense about the consequences of our joint actions in this situation. If we meet somebody that says, "Don't worry, yes, there are a lot of things that you don't know. The world is dangerous, but I have the answers. It doesn't matter how complex the world appears, I have simple answers to the problems that you perceive." That person is going to be very attractive, and we will be tempted strongly. We will be moved to trust that person. We will want to delegate the decisions that we are enabled to make on our own. We will wish for that person to be right. We will allow that person to lead. We will also allow that person to make mistakes at a larger degree than we otherwise would, exactly because we delegated our critical decision making because of our state of vulnerability. The social dialogue, of course, is politics, and the persons who tell us to trust them and to delegate decision making to them are our politicians. And those politicians that say that they have simple answers to complex questions and that we should not worry about the fact that we don't understand the world and we should not equip ourselves with better tools to understand the world are dangerous populist demagogues. We are seeing the emergence of this in many places around the world, and we are seeing how much leeway populist politicians are receiving from their electorate. The electorate that is able to forgive and to forget mistakes to a degree that wasn't available before. It appears that checks and balances are not in place and that the attractive message of simple answers to complex problems is such that we can lead society in a direction that can be profoundly biased and very dangerous. This development is especially dangerous when we are looking at fact-based professionals, scientists, engineers, teachers, doctors, and physicians, whose worldview is strongly informed by our scientific theories and whose decisions are based on rationality, and that reason and science can generate positive results. The populist demagogues are going to put them in a position of ineffectiveness, undercutting their approach, the meaning of their values, or even ridicule their achievements because they need to maintain or increase the level of uncertainty in the world on which they thrive. These professionals and scientists and engineers and teachers are not going to be able to respond because they are not equipped with the same rhetorical tools. And if they do respond, they will take part in creating the problems that they try to counteract. The damage of this political unbalance is concrete, and the economic costs are huge, and the human suffering is real. Society has a way of recreating a better balance, and it will course correct. In the past, it was the case that these course corrections would include wars and revolutions. They would include millions of people suffering or dying. The question we have today is, can we be blind? Can we accept the cost of these extreme sacrifices for society to realize the consequences of the current direction and to course correct? Can we afford them? The consequences are not only local, where we can pretend they don't exist, as we did in the past, where we can pretend to be blind to this suffering. Now the consequences will be global and civilizational. The consequences will include global thermonuclear war and global ecological collapse. If that is the case, there would be a global reset in the course of human civilization, in our ability to build societies that are uplifting individuals by the billions and that can aim to be ambitious and conquer the stars. We cannot accept that cost. We cannot destroy the global civilization we built over the course of the past 10,000 years. We must not destroy the ecosystem that supports us all. We have not fully understood what the best tools are to counteract the dangerous demagoguery that gripped so many of our societies. But certainly, part of the answer is better data, better models, better knowledge, and an ability for critical thinking to inspire and inform our decisions. Did you like this video? Was it provocative, informative? I hope that at least some of you will be called to action, that you will say, "Oh, I thought that I could ignore politics, but as a matter of fact, it impacts my life profoundly. I didn't realize that the reaction of people who vote differently from me is a consequence of their feelings of vulnerability." If you followed this series, you know that you can start to improve your chances in a society in order to be more emancipated, more empowered, and to feel that you are part of this future that we are building together. Feel free to send questions or propose new topics that you would like to be covered. And if you enjoy the context, these episodes, and you want me to keep producing them, you can become a supporter of the context for as little as $5 a month on Patreon. It makes you part of a community of fans and followers, and it enables me, together with my team, to keep decoding the world.